this session today we'll be looking at some of the standard tools that are used in the plumbing industry. And it's quite important that we use these correct terminologies, because if we go to a merchant or if we're getting something for someone else, we need to make sure that what we are getting is what they are actually asking for. So today we will have a look at the colloquial or the general word that the people are using, and then we'll have a look at the correct word that we should be using. The first one that we will have a look at is the what is colloquial name as shifting spanner or shifting. We can see it's a wrench that's adjustable, the jaw can widen, and that is the correct name for it, is adjustable wrench. The next one is a bobby-on spanner, so there's nothing about a monkey on it. It is also a wrench, but instead of just being a normal adjustable wrench that takes a hexagonal nut or whatever, this one has got a jaw on it so that it can grab onto a pipe, and hence the name is called an adjustable pipe wrench. On this slide you can see it's a water pump pliers, and it's very seldom that it's actually used for anything to do with a water pump anymore. It is more about plumbing, and you'll see that the jaws on there have also got a serration so that it can grab onto round items, but it has a flattish area so that it can also grip onto hexagonal items. So you can use it for gripping on pliers or nuts or anything. So it's a very universal pair of pliers. The head of it has also got a sliding section so that you can actually make the jaws bigger or smaller depending on what you want to do there. So the correct name for this one is a tongue and groove pliers. This one everybody will know as a pipe cutter, but we don't necessarily cut pipes with it. We normally use it for cutting copper tubes, plastic tubing, or whatever. So the correct word for it would be a copper tube cutter, this one, because the blade is designed to specially cut copper tube. You do get others that will have a different type of blade which may look very similar, but they are specifically designed for cutting plastic tubing or steel pipe tubing then. This hammer, obviously it's a hammer. We can see it's got a handle and a head that you can bash things with, and normally it would be called a 4-pound hammer depending on the size, but the correct way of calling it is a club hammer, and the actual size of this one goes according to the weight. It's a 1.8 kilogram club hammer. You can also get bigger ones, so then it would be club hammer and the weight of it, so you specify exactly which club hammer you are looking for. The next one is also a hammer, and we generally refer to it as a carpenter's hammer because that is generally who uses it, as a carpenter, but the correct word for it is a claw hammer because it's got that claw section on it with a groove in the middle that is specifically designed for extracting nails on any item that you may have driven a nail into, whether it be into a wall or whether it be into a piece of wood. The other opposite side to the claw has got a head, which is obviously then used for driving in any nails. This one doesn't really have a colloquial name. The correct name for it is a ball peen hammer or a peen hammer, and you can see why, as on the one side it's got a ball and the other side it's got a normal head, and that would normally be used for doing riveting. So it would be used by a sheet metal worker or a metal worker. So you would use the flatted side of the head for just knocking something flat, and then if you want to round it off or to give it a specific shape, you would then use the balls section to then give it that shape. Piping, no, it may look like a pipe, but the correct word for it is tubing, copper tubing, and the correct way of giving the size of this is in the metric size these days, which is normally 15 millimeter or 22. There's 28 millimeter, and it carries on like that, where the old way of doing it would have been half inch or 3/4 inch. We do not use the old imperial size anymore because the outside diameter of this tubing is measured from side to side or outside diameter, and it is given in metric. So if you put a micrometer or tape measure across there, you would be able to see exactly what it is. This one we often refer to as a tube socket because it looks like a long socket or a spark plug spanner, but the correct word for it is a tube spanner, because it is a spanner that we use that is very deep. We can go onto nuts that are, for instance, in a wall, the under tile head part. We could then reach it nicely, or underneath a basin, the fixing sets and so forth, you could reach nicely. It becomes available in different sizes. The reason why it's also called a tube spanner is because it's made out of a piece of tubing. It's not a forged or anything like that material. It is basically a piece of tube that has been shaped on the ends to take the hex, and it has a hole in it to receive that like a T handle, so that you can then put some extra torque on there. So this then is your extended tube socket. A normal tube socket would be a shorter one, which is the normal ones you get in your socket sets. This is an extended tube socket. You can see it's much longer, so it's not a tube spanner. The previous one we had a look at is the tube spanner. This is the actual socket that you use with a socket wrench. Talking about wrenches, the next one, the colloquial that we would know it as a flatten ring. The correct one is a combination spanner or a box and ring. Combination because it's got two different types of fittings. On the one side it's got the ring, and the other side it has got the open section or the boxed section. So it would then be called a combination spanner or a box and ring combination spanner. So the next one is a hand tool, electrical hand tool. It's a drill, but it's not just any drill. It's a rotary hammer drill or a SDS drill. SDS because if you have a look at that drill bit, we'll see there's a slot in it that fits into the special head or the chuck of this drill to prevent it from rotating freely. So that would then hold it there, so that when the hammer rotates it would then turn the drill. But it would also be specially made bigger on that one side, on the side where you put it into the drill, because that is where the hammering part of the drill takes place. The next one is then your key chuck drill. So it could also be an impact drill or a normal rotary drill, but it does not have the other one where it has a special SDS chuck. This one you need a key to turn it, and by turning it, it works like a gear, like a crown gear, which as you rotate the key, it would then force the jaw closed, and normally it has got three little fingers that then clamp onto the drill bit. The next one is a spirit level. It could also be called a bubble level, or just sometimes just called a level, and that would be used for making sure that things are plumb, either in the horizontal or vertical. You'll see in the enlarged part of the picture there are two lines, and there's an air bubble inside the liquid, and when that is absolutely in between the two lines, that thing is either horizontally level, or if it is on the vertical bubble section, then it would be totally vertical or perpendicular. The next one is a blowtorch or gas torch. There are different ones on the market. You can get all sorts of different makes. The one in the middle, the laser 3000, we can see that doesn't have auto ignition, so you would basically just turn the red knob and the gas would start flowing, and you'd have to use a lighter then to light the flame. On the bottom left hand one, same type of idea, but you there have a red button on the handle which would give a little magneto spark and would cause the ignition of the gas, so you don't have to battle with matches or a lighter then to light it. The other one on the total right hand side, your Bernzomatic, those are very nice. They've got extra features where they have got a special nozzle which you can actually use upside down. If you use a normal blowtorch or a gas torch upside down, the liquid gas comes out and it throws a long flame. The Bernzomatic one have got a special feature in there where you can solder or use it upside down any which way you want, and the flame will stay constant there. Talking about soldering, we use solder wire, and the one that we are interested in is the one for capillary joints on copper pipe work. We'll see in the picture the joint, elbow in this case, slides neatly over the piece of copper piping, and it's got a fractional gap left between the pipe and the fitting. Once you heat it up, a capillary action will take place as soon as you put the solder wire next to it, and the wire that we're going to use must be the 97/3 solder wire, and you can see there that 97/3 is lead free. It is 97% tin and 3% copper. You get it in different thicknesses. The ones that you would normally use is either 2mm, you would use the 2mm up to about a 35mm copper pipe fitting, or if you go to your bigger sizes, you would use the 3mm. Your UPVC solvent weld, it's not a glue. Most people refer to it as PVC glue, but it is actually called a solvent weld because it uses a solvent in this mixture to actually melt the fitting. You would apply it on both sides, on your pipe and on the fitting, and then fairly quickly assemble the joint, because it will then weld or melt these two plastic surfaces into one. Once it is hardened and set, it becomes completely rigid, and you cut it through. If it's been done properly, you will have a solid piece there. You won't see a gap in between. The top one, the PVC weld, is UPVC for normal low pressure fittings. The one at the bottom is for high pressure PVC fittings. It's just stronger and it has a higher tensile joint strength then. If you have any further questions, or you're unsure about something, or you just need some more technical information, by all means contact our after sales support department. They are available on 0861 21 21 21. Thank you for your attention.